Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Herd Fit Podcast with, as always, Coach Dave Syvertsen, and I'm Sam Rhee. This topic was one that I brought up with Dave because I was sort of watching a lot of CrossFit online.
Yeah, semifinals, right?
I was watching the MAC and West Coast Classic, Granite Games, even some of the online stuff. And I was like watching all these guys, and I follow these guys on Instagram, and I was like, okay, wait a second, what am I really like? I am enjoying watching it, but is there something I should be taking away as a CrossFit athlete from watching these athletes? Yeah. Because they, as a CrossFitter, a lot of CrossFitters follow them really carefully. We know what Matt Fraser was doing, or what Tia Claire Toomey is doing, or what Katrin Davids-Otter is doing, or we feel bad when Sarah, got hurt, and we buy the stuff they endorse. And when Matt Fraser mentioned beta-alanine, like you couldn't buy any beta-alanine. The Whoop is like everyone's pushing Whoop, and these training programs like Proven and Hard Work Pays Off and ComTrain, and I was like, okay, so what is it that we really should be getting out of these pro athletes in CrossFit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we all know this. The vast majority of CrossFitters are never going to be on the level of a games athlete, or you could even say a semifinals athlete. And I mean, they are the top 1% of the top 1%, right? So it's almost like watching, the NBA, and I play pickup basketball with my friends. Am I going to watch LeBron James and try to implement his moves into my game on the parking lot? No, absolutely not. What I think the cool part about watching games athletes in action is we do the same thing at the gym.
Right.
We literally do.
Right.
And again, it's like the CrossFit old school model. Right, we're all achieving the same stimulus, even though we're using different loads, maybe some different movements, different intensity, different speed levels for sure, right?
Yep.
But there aren't many sports where, like, the Open this year, we did the same. Like all those athletes that are at the games now, that qualify for the games, their season started with wall walks and double unders.
Yeah.
The same exact workout, and that's a really cool thing. You can relate to them more than you can relate to someone that plays baseball, football, soccer, hockey.
Right. So when for example, I was watching these athletes do Gretel, for example, right? Which is the clean and jerks and then the burpees over bar.
Yeah, 10 rounds of 3 clean and jerks, 3 bar facing burpees.
Right. And, I think we've done that, right?
Yeah, we did it. Yeah, we did it when it came out. I want to say it was in February.
Right. So if I watch them and then I am doing it, should I be watching them and say, all right, so they're doing this, and that's what I should be doing?
I mean, when it comes to quality move, well, actually, that's a tough one because we've talked about this on past podcasts that some of them move so poorly because they're only pursuing speed.
Right.
Right? Where we're here for fitness and we need to be safe. But I do think there's some things you can watch in a semifinal or at the games and apply it to your workout. We talked about breathing in episode 1 with Coach Adam.
Right.
A lot of those guys and girls are very cognizant of how they're breathing in the middle of a workout. You can apply that to tomorrow's workout. I don't care if you're a games athlete. I don't care if you're scaling. And movement patterns and movement quality. That was another episode we did with Coach Adam, like how your quality movement impacts your fitness and could impact your score if that's what you're pursuing. If you're an inefficient mover, you're leaving something out on the table in terms of your performance.
So did you watch any of the 1 Rep Max stuff?
I did.
Okay.
I did, yeah.
And then did you take anything away from it when you were watching?
I mean, I always like to see how people approach the bar. I always like to see, like when I tell people here, hip contact with the bar is not a suggestion. It's crucial. Right. If you ever want to find out what you can lift, you have to get that bar to the hip, especially on a snatch. And you're never going to watch a high-level athlete not do that, and they're not even real Olympic lifters, to be honest with you,
Right.
They're good at Olympic lifting, but if you watch guys and girls that actually compete at the Olympics,
right.
It's the same thing. They all hook grip.
Right.
Like, I don't like hook grip. It's uncomfortable. I'm like, you need to hook grip. It's not a debate,
right.
And it's, you won't understand the benefit of the hook grip until maybe you're a year into it. and you got to tape your thumbs, and it hurts a little bit sometimes, right?
Oh, it took me like almost 3 years to finally get to the hook grip part of it.
Yeah, and I get it. Trust me. Like when someone first suggested it to me, I was like, no, that's stupid. Right. And then once I started taking it more serious, I kind of understood why. I was like, all right, this makes a lot of sense. And like now, like
I can't do it without.
Yeah,
like
I
literally cannot.
I hurt my thumb a couple of weeks ago, so on this thumb right now, I can't hook grip. So I have one hand hook gripping, and the other hand is normal. And it's having a significant negative impact on my lifting. And that's it. That's the only thing that's changed. So it's not debatable. So I like to find little things, how they walk up to the bar, hip contact, hook grip. It kind of reaffirms that you got to do it that way, even if you're not trying to get to that level.
How about, like, when I was watching them break up the movements, you know, okay, the really crazy good athletes will go unbroken, right? That's how Tia-Clair Toomey won the MAC. Like, she just went unbroken on everything.
Yeah, right.
But if I try to go unbroken on any workout, I would die right away.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't. Like, the strategy that these athletes are employing is not the strategy that I can employ on a daily basis.
That's where I think there's a little disconnect with us and the immortals of the games athletes, is that there are certain things they're physically capable of doing that you're not. And if you try to do something you're not physically capable of, injury, crappy workout. And I'm more interested in seeing, like, how did someone get to that level? Like, what did they do? Because Tia will post videos of when she started CrossFit.
Yeah.
It looks like you're a normal person that's never done CrossFit before.
Exactly.
This is how you do it clean.
Yeah.
How did she get to that level, and how long did it take? That's one benefit. We were just talking earlier about how it's hard to be a new person at Bison right now, because the programming is so much harder than it used to be. There are so many more competitive athletes, fitter athletes. Like, our base clientele right now is so much fitter than it was 5 years ago.
Yep.
Now, I think the advantage of being someone new at this time, and we can relate this to Tia and watching them, is we can now teach them how these people progressed. Like, I could teach a lot of people how you progressed from the guy that didn't know how to count wall balls to someone that makes the age-of-line qualifier 2 years in a row and can do a lot of really impressive things with your body. So instead of them going through a 5-year trek like you did, maybe they can get there in 2-3 years. So how did Tia get to the point where she's doing everything so unbroken and every movement is the same? That's what I'm more interested in. So that's where, you know, you follow them on Instagram and you listen to podcasts that they're featured on, of what did they do in that process, and like where's the advice?
Do you find a commonality when you listen to them about their discipline or their mental approach or their habits?
Yeah, I do. They've made their entire life about it. And I don't think that gets seen enough, right? Is, you know, how much they've sacrificed other things in their life to get to the point where they are right now. And how it's a never ending grind. You know, there is a lot of skill associated in the sport, but it's a sport that constantly needs to be handled. Like, you can't just like chill for 4 or 5 months and then expect to be at the highest level, right? If you're already at the highest level, then yeah, we could talk about more like off-season type training. But I didn't feel that way about basketball and baseball. Like, there are some very noteworthy best football players ever that were drunk at games, that were high at games, that maybe they still are.
Right.
Dennis Rodman, like, you know, longtime NBA player, like, he would go play a game and then just get as drunk as possible the next day and like show up. He was athletically gifted, and that athletic gifted shows up on the court.
Right.
Where you can get away with certain things, where in CrossFit, you basically need to be good at everything.
Right.
And to be good at everything, you got to train all year.
So I feel like that's even more the case now in professional CrossFit, is how you trained reflects directly on your performance in competitions.
Yeah.
And the better the training program you have, the harder, you know, the more carefully you follow it, it reflects directly into your score or your place in a competition.
And know what we're starting to see more of is who they're training with. Like, this is becoming a trend now. Comp Trainers does this, Proven does this. I know Conquer is trying to put something together like this now, where the guy, Underdog Athletics out in Las Vegas, they all train together all year. They move to a central location, and how their living arrangements are lined up, I'm not sure. Who pays for what, I'm not sure. But you can see, I think the top three of the top 4 girls from the West Coast Classic are training. They all train together. I think the top 2 from Mid-Atlantic, they train together. You know, I think a big part of this, what we can learn from them is if you want to be your best, you got to get around other people that are on that same level or have that same ambition.
There's 1 or 2, like the brute strength athletes, like Emma Carey, I want to say, their coaching is primarily online,
right,
and they stay home at their, you know, wherever they are.
Yeah.
So there are a few that are still doing it
absolutely
remote.
Yep.
Not many though.
Not many. And she's a teenager. I think she's still in high school.
Yeah, she's like 17 or something.
So I think that's part of the reason why. But I do think you're going to see this in the coming years. If you want to make the games, you're going to have to travel to a central location and train with other games athletes. Not everyone, but I just think that's a trend I've noticed, that people from all over the country are just coming together and just literally just getting after it. So you have to ask yourself, what's more important? Is it the training program or the people you're with?
I was about to ask you, so what do you think about these training programs?
Yeah, because if it's template, I'll say this. I think that who you're training with is more important. But there has to be a flow. Like, it can't just be like a random workout. And I think, you know, what a lot of these camps do, they call them camps, is they all do their own thing for the first 2-3 sessions of the day, but then they all come together and do your classic workout at the end of the day. So there's always that intensity, because the sport is always going to revolve around intensity and conditioning and your capacity. And that is best trained for most people when you're around other people doing the same thing. So I would challenge people that if you're here and you feel like you're in a rut, right? How can you relate, even if you don't have competitive aspirations, how can you get out of that rut? You got to stop training with your friends every single time. You can do it here and there, but I think every now and then you got to gravitate more towards someone that really pushes you. You know, and hey, maybe you have friends that do push you, but do they really push you? Like, when I say push you, get you out of your comfort zone, right? There are some friends I like to train with, and I'm fortunate that they are a lot faster than me. But I'll tell you what, it's different when I work out with them and doing our own individual workouts than me trying to beat someone that I'm not friends with, right?
Right. So definitely, it sounds like being with people, first of all, is better than just training in isolation.
Absolutely.
And then finding the people that really push you is the next step.
That would be the next step, yeah.
Right. I mean, I feel like Mayhem sort of did it first.
Yep.
But I don't think they formalized their training program the way, say, some of these other places have.
Yeah.
It was more like, oh, whatever Rich Froning really wants to do that day.
And I think, I mean, I've listened to a few things of people that know Rich, and I've listened to Rich a lot. He knows what he's doing with programming. He really does. And he knows CrossFit. He knows CrossFit, the sport, really well, too. Like, he knows what's going to be tested. He doesn't know the workouts, but he knows what's going to, so he knows how to train things. And they do some, you know, their classic workouts in his garage, but they do stick to a lifting program every now and then. Like, I do think there's some. He also has Chris Henshaw working for him, Mr. Aerobic Capacity.
Right. He's
had Bergener work out, Mr. Olympic Lifting.
Right.
Like, in my opinion, that's the stuff that you really need a coach for, is like the skills, the skill training, the aerobic training, the weightlifting training, the WODs. Like, I think that's just more about getting around the right people.
You know, they talk about some of this stuff, and it's more of the 1% or 5% of improvement, which just makes my head spin sometimes.
Right.
And I'm like, does that matter? Like, for example, in the West Coast Classic, they were looking at that super long ruck run.
Yeah.
And they were talking about heart rate and calculating your heart rate and calculating your breathing. And I was like, if I had to do this, it would just, I couldn't think.
It's hard to well, that's, again, the difference. These guys are pro athletes. This is their job. You know, their job is to go out there and compete and win money and make the games, and their sponsorships come from that. But I think that the sport is evolving so much. And again, another thing we can learn from as mortals here is the progress that you're going to obtain 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years in is in the smallest details. Like it can't just be try harder, right? Like you're trying hard. You're trying as hard as you can. But there might be some little details that you're overlooking that pertain to your heart rate, that your breathing, your pacing, your foot placement, your hand placement on different things, right? Like that's where your next progress, like you, Sam, your next 3, 4, 5 years of progress will not be you trying harder. It's going to be finding these little minute details that you're overlooking right now to get you just a little better.
How about all the stuff they endorse? How realistic is that stuff?
I don't know. I'll tell you, like the beta-alanine, we'll have more on that for you guys coming up. But, that's beta-alanine, creatine, protein, like that stuff is all, as clearly, objectively helpful as you can get. But there's a lot of stuff out there that's still kind of out in the open that these guys and girls are endorsing. Do you get it because they're using it? And a lot of us do.
Yes.
And you want to try it out.
Yeah.
I think that you need to know that there's financial interest in there. Like they're being paid to make these posts. They're being paid to, and then there is a question. I've been told in the past that Rich Froning used to endorse something. I don't want to throw anything under the bus, but that he doesn't take. But he was being paid to portray that he did take it. And it wasn't anything unhealthy. I just think it was something that he just did not take, and he was getting money to tell people that he uses it.
I see an ad for this portable rower that he endorses now. Have you seen that?
I have.
I'm like, does he really use this portable rower?
I mean, I've never seen them use it on their stories.
Yeah.
Like I love the Mayhem program. Like if I ever had to pick like a template to go after, that would be it. But they never use that. So I follow them a lot. I've never seen them use it other than the advertisement that they're using it.
Right. I mean, I did buy the Airwave because the mouthpiece thing.
Yep.
Because
added it to it.
Because he uses it.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, there's some stuff that I watched them do. I got a Whoop.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how much this is really helping me.
Yeah.
I would like to think it's helping me.
Yeah, and I think it's all about just trying things out. I don't think there's anything ever wrong with trying things out. And again, your progress from here on out is going to be so incremental. It's going to be so small. Little by little, that if you find a mouthpiece and a Whoop and things, like maybe it helps you get a little bit better, I say you go for it. I just think that you always have to know that these guys are using these things in addition to a really clean lifestyle. Like you can go take beta-alanine and creatine, but if you're garbage outside the gym, it's not going to do anything for you. It's just an accessory to your clean living.
Which athletes do you like to follow that you think sort of exemplify or do well in terms of?
I'll give you a guy and a girl. The girl I like to follow is Bethany Shadburn.
Oh yeah.
She just won the West Coast Classic, and she's one of those girls that moved from Texas to Vegas to train with Justin Kotler, who used to be a Northeast guy. And he's training with Carrie Pierce, Danielle, I forget her last name, Tola. They all compete together. They all train together there. And she's been injured for a long time, and to the point where she almost kind of backed out of competition because she just felt like she was always in pain, always grinding through workouts. And I think a lot of people could relate to that. And I like following her to see how much she does beyond the sexy stuff of CrossFit. Like she will do an hour of a warm-up for snatching. She's got a great accessory list of movements that she does based on what she's doing during the day for running, for jumping, for pulling, for pushing. And it looks so boring. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to do that tomorrow. You get here and like, you'd rather go talk to your friend. And then 5 minutes later, you're holding your wrist because something hurts, right? She's someone that went through this like constant pain, did not quit. She fixed a lot of things with her warm-up. She fixed who she's training with. She had a lot of friends back in Texas. I think she either owned the gym or coached there. I bet that was very hard for her to do. But she's like, you know what? I need to get out of this comfort zone that led me to where I was right now. I packed up my bags, went to Vegas. I'm doing all this accessory work, and now she's one of the favorites to win the games now. Just like that. A guy that I like to follow. Here, give me one.
Okay.
Let me think a little more.
So, in terms of women, I think I actually followed, even before the West Coast Classic, one of her training partners, the one with blue hair. Danielle.
Oh, Danielle. Yeah, what's her last name?
I don't know, Brandon or Tandon or something.
I think it's Danielle Brandon.
Yeah.
Yep.
And only because, Instagram throws you suggested stuff.
Right.
And she had blue hair, and she was working out really well. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
She's a beast.
Yeah. And then the other one that I was following also before the CrossFit Games, and then she just was a big news item, was Emma Tall, who got disqualified because of the secondary review where they said the coach couldn't help settle the barbell.
That sucked.
And they had already announced that she had made the games, and then they actually changed it like 3 or 4 days after announcing it. And I only was following her because she is like, her body, like if you've seen her lift, her lats, like she's huge, absolutely huge. Yeah. And watching her do like 40 unbroken ring muscle ups. Yeah. Like so I don't really follow. You follow for substance. Yeah. I follow for style. Yeah.
I'm not a style guy.
No, I love style. I love watching Instagram and watching good-looking people do really amazing shit. Basically. Sorry.
Hey, that's your line of work. You make people good looking. Another one I like, again, this is more substance, right? It's funny you said that. Is Cole Sager. I like Cole Sager because the guy's always there. Yeah. And he's not Mr. Style. I mean, he's a good-looking dude, right? Ash, my wife, always says he's very good-looking. Yeah. He looks nothing like me. But he's by himself a lot. Yeah. And he just had a kid. Yeah. And just had a baby. And he just won the West Coast Classic. Yeah. And again, training background was he was a college football player at the University of Washington, so there's a background that he had to work with. But I think he's starting to creep up there in age a little bit. Yeah. I don't think he's old yet, but I want to say he's approaching 30.
Yeah, or maybe 30 or 31. I don't know.
Yeah, he might be above. So in this sport, when you're on the other side of 30, you're considered old because you're competing against 21, 22, 23. Yeah, Ben Smith's another one. Yeah. And what I like about Cole is that he's just like Mr. Consistent. And he's a little good at, he's just kind of good at everything. I don't think he's ever really the best at anything, but you see in mixed modal work, which means like conditioning, gymnastics, lifting, he's always there because he doesn't have a weakness. And he's he's a wholesome guy. Yeah. He's very humble. Yeah. And this gets misconstrued on Instagram a lot. It's like, oh, this guy's posting his workouts. He must be full of himself. I'm like, I actually think he's trying to show you that he's grinding this out by himself in this little garage gym that's the size of our lobby. And he doesn't have people next to him all the time. He'll travel up to comp train every now and then and train with those guys. But a lot of what he does is by himself, and it's just good old-fashioned hard work. And it's really hard to get to that level. It's even harder, in my opinion, to stay on that level as you get older, as you have a baby, right? And I just think that he's a good guy to follow because he just seems like a normal human being to me. And I don't think he takes advantage of his fame. Like, I don't see him endorsing much at all. There's a few things he does, and I'm very confident that he actually believes and uses those things.
I like Cole Sager. You're right. He's really a very unflashy guy.
Yes.
Like, sort of like Scott Panchik, sort of.
Panchik was my other one.
Yeah. Those guys just sort of grind it out, and they, just because they're really nice guys, it looks like, they are deadly out on the field. Like, you saw that ruck run where Cole Sager just crushed the guy Sprague at the end.
That's when I look
killer mentality.
When I look up to competitors, that's like, we've talked about this privately. Like, I don't have a lot of confidence when I compete online because I don't have anyone next to me to try and beat or run away from. And I think that's like a mark of a real competitor, is that when they get in person, like, they want to rip your eyeballs out. Yeah. That's a competitor to me. Like, we're not friends. I don't care if, like, you get hurt. I don't care if you get crushed. Like, I want to rip your eyeballs out when we're competing. And he doesn't get to do that day to day. But when he shows up, game day, that switch is flipped. Yep. And, I have so much respect for the people that can do both. I have a hard time competing hard online when I don't have someone next to me, but I know that mindset, when you're next to them, like, they will try to kill you, there
are a couple other people I like. I will say I like Noah Olsen, and I know that's controversial for a couple of reasons, but I will tell you why I like him. Yeah. I like him because he is Yeah, does he take is he famous? Yes, he's probably one of the more famous guys.
For sure.
There are a lot of people that knock Noah Olsen. Tons of people love to knock him.
I think it stems from jealousy.
Yeah, right. And I will tell you this, first of all, the guy is not smooth in the sense, like if you hear him talk and stuff, he's not like slick.
Yeah.
He's sort of awkward, like a big,
like a little kid.
Yeah, almost, and he's just trying to make his way through all these slings and arrows.
Yep.
And he tries to find the thing that makes him comfortable.
Yep.
So he comes up with stuff like, all right, I'm going to go with happy and humble, which sounds ridiculous, but it's authentically him being awkward, trying to find the right mindset.
Right.
And whenever I listen to him on a podcast, he doesn't really hold back. 2 weeks before the West Coast Classic, he revealed he had a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
And there's very few, like he's the opposite of Matt Frazier.
Right.
Like he discloses so much.
Right.
And
it's real.
It's real.
Yeah.
And even if
cool.
right, and even if it's awkward or people like want to make fun of like his little man bun or whatever it is, like he just does whatever he does.
Yeah.
And
he doesn't change.
He doesn't change that.
I think that's a cool thing because he probably is like he is the same guy that he was from our perspective.
Right. But he's grown. He has grown and matured personality-wise.
Yeah.
Like he was a little bit maybe he's definitely quieter and more reserved now than he was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But he still has that same openness to the degree that he can without getting crushed.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw the Instagram post recently where he showed the lift that hurt his shoulder.
Yeah.
And I was like, he hyperextended
really
it
went
back and it was just like, wow.
Snatch?
Yeah. No, it was it was like a heavy jerk.
Oh, and he also goes wide too. He goes pretty wide on the barbell.
On the jerk. And for him to sort of share that, listen, everyone's like, he's not a winner, he's not winning, he's second last year.
He's up there every year.
Yeah, like, I mean, guys, this guy is amazing and he's real. And just because, I don't know, if you want to compare Matt Frazier to like Michael Jordan and then him to somebody else, whatever. Yeah. There's so many comparisons out there.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's still up there every single year, I mean, it's so respectable, you know?
I love that. And he is huge. Dude is so yoked.
Yeah, he's so yoked. Yeah.
And that's why, listen, again, style over substance. Yeah. That's why I follow Con Porter.
Yeah.
The dude is the best looking dude in CrossFit, bar none. Have you not seen this guy?
I know who Con,
Yeah, so he's just, really, he has the long hair. He's really good looking.
Yeah.
He had that dance video. Did you see the dance video?
I did see that. Actually, it was pretty funny.
See, like the guy has style.
Some personality.
A lot of personality.
Yep.
So for me, a lot of it is entertainment. But then I also know that these guys can rip it up with anyone.
Yeah.
And they can throw down just as well as anyone else can.
Yep.
So, yeah, I love the Scott Panchiks. I love the Cole Sagers.
Yep.
But, I will always have a feed with Con Porter. And
I'm looking forward to following the new female prodigy, Mallory OBrien.
Yeah.
I like her flow a little bit.
You like her killer mental attitude?
Yeah, she has some fire in her eyes when she competes. And just watching from the semifinal, I just think that if there is someone that could take Tia down.
You think that's her?
I think it's her. If there's someone, maybe not this year, she's got to stay healthy too. But I loved watching her because I don't know. I can watch people. I feel like I can pick up on nonverbal feelings, communication pretty well. And I could just watch her. She has that dog in her where she's, again, wants to rip your eyeballs out when she's competing.
So you really love watching that mental part of it.
Yeah, that's a huge thing for me. And you can't always see it from the naked eye. Some people are more obvious than others, being dramatic in a workout. But that's one thing I liked about Frazier. He would be mid-workout. He literally was, him and Froning always looked at other guys. They would look at what their pace was on a rower. It's a dog mentality. It's I remember Froning one time, he stole Frazier's chalk going up the rope. Mm-hmm. Ashley still hates him for that. But it's they don't care. When you're at a competition, it's you win or you lose. And I love that mentality.
I think I feel like if I watch someone at the gym do a workout, I can tell a lot about them.
For sure.
And
100%.
Right. And so when you watch these guys perform, I mean, they're at such a high level, it's really hard to take much away because they're just so dialed in.
Right.
But like you said, you can still...
Last night I texted someone and I said, I loved the fire that I saw. She ripped her hand. mid-workout. It was obviously hurting, and it was a rip. It was a legit rip. And, you know, like that, like grimace on the face, like, ow. And then banged out the next 7 knee raise toes to bars unbroken, knowing that every rep hurt. And I'm like, after doing the heavy shoulder overhead unbroken, like, and if you ever do shoulder overhead with a rip, it hurts, right? And like, that was like, that's one of the first times I've seen that. Like, that's like grit to me.
The one thing I love about pro CrossFit is the gender equality between men and women. I follow just as many women and will learn from their performances as I do the men, and sometimes more because like the men just have so much brute strength. I'm just like, I can't take much away from their lift technique because I just don't have that brute strength to move. But then when you
predominantly women move better.
And when you watch the women, and I love it because I think, first of all, they have both the men and women comps together. You get to watch all of it. And
sports don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. And the only one that I can think of that is similar is tennis, where the women have as much, if not more, star power than the guys do. But the performance for these women is just insane. It's absolutely insane. It's the guys, it's not the guys, but it doesn't matter. Just I feel like a lot of times I will learn more from watching them compete.
And I love watching the women too. Like the guys, when they show the semifinals on the game site, they go, you know, girls division, guys division. Like, I watch both with equal intensity. And sometimes, like the West Coast Classic, I liked watching the girls more just because I knew more of them. I think it's also just for culture. Like, you have a daughter, I think it's like just great role models for a lot of young girls to look up to, that, like, you know, as time progresses, this becomes more and more like normal and accepted. Like, it's okay for a woman to have muscles and be bigger than, you know, your average woman from 30 years ago. And I think that these give a lot of these young girls now legit role models that, you know, like, hey, look at them. Like, they're still a normal person going out. They look beautiful, pretty girls, but they're snatching 205 and cleaning 250. And they still look normal. You know, like, that's, you really, I know that a lot of women have to fight that kind of inner feeling, that stereotype that you shouldn't get too big. And it's like, says who? You know, like, you know, if a guy, I told a girl this a few years ago, like, that it seemed like a guy was a little too afraid of her, like, getting strong and big, and I said, like, why don't you just tell him to get stronger then? You know, like tell it, like, it's not you that has a problem, it's them, you know. I think when you look at the face of CrossFit and the women athletes that are prominently featured, like Catherine's David daughter, Brooke Wells, Tia Claire Toomey, like, they are constantly, like you said, redefining what it is to be an attractive woman, an example for other women. They have real legs. Like, they have thighs. They have backs. They have traps. Not to the level of a bodybuilder. And they're not, you know, to the point where it's grotesque by normal societal standards. It does constantly send a more positive message to people that, like, you don't have to have legs this big. Like, you can have arms that look. You can have some definition. You can have traps.
Exactly. You know? All those things, and you don't have to look like Cardi B. All the time.
I don't even know who Cardi B is.
Yeah, you know who Cardi B is. Stop pretending.
Is she WAP?
Yeah, she's part of WAP.
Okay, WAP.
Yeah.
WAP.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.